It's been uncertainty this year for Americans in general. Lots of friction because the Trump administration has really pushed the envelope, really thwarted convention. There's that feel out there that things are just being tweaked and moved and changed, and humans are uncomfortable with that. Donald Trump and his administration stepped off the gas when it came to tariffs in the spring, and what did we see since then? His numbers came up. Relative optimism coming up a bit, the overall uncertainty index going down. But this is the lull before the storm, ultimately, because there are other indicators showing that Americans are uneasy about the future.
Cliff, I wanted to dig into the numbers a little bit more because when you look more closely, you do see a disconnect politically over the costs and benefits of tariffs. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's like two sides of the same coin, but two different worlds, right? So on the one hand, Americans, red, blue, purple, are worried about tariffs. They see tariffs as inflationary, and they have since the get-go. Since the beginning of the year, we've tracked this, and it's very clear. On the flip side, they do see the benefits as well. They do see, at least in part, how tariffs might bring back jobs to America, might bring back industry. The only caveat there is there's been attenuation in that belief since early spring. Especially among independents, there's a lot more trepidation and unease, as I said, especially among independents when it comes to long-term benefits with respect to tariffs.
We know that one of the top issues that helped elect President Trump, of course, was the economy. It is something that we repeatedly saw him during the campaign trail poll really well on. So as we were talking about how Americans have been digesting his economic policies, can you talk to us at the moment where President Trump, his policies, this White House's approval rating is standing right now?
Yeah. He's in a relatively good place when it comes to his approval numbers. Depending on the poll, let's just take the average of all the polls out there, not just Ipsos, but all the polls, all the polling firms. It's around 44%. That's a good place. Ultimately, he's better than he was in 2017. He would be able to be reelected with a better than 50-50 chance if he were to run again. We're talking theoretically. He's in a good place when it comes to the numbers. The decline in his numbers since January, that is, since the honeymoon, has only been about 6 points. That's basically the average. So overall, today, he's in a relatively good place. He's improved, as I said before, since the early spring, where ultimately he stepped off the gas when it came to tariffs. But other indicators are I would say, showing negative signals for the future. He doesn't poll well on the economy. He doesn't poll well on cost of living. As I said before, Americans are worried about tariffs. They see them as inflationary.
Let's talk a little bit more about that cost of living question. Do we see it trending more negatively as the tariffs really start to take that bite out of consumers' pocketbooks?
We have bizarre trends. We have, in some ways, seemingly contradictory trends. So on the one hand, inflation concretely in the real economy is improving, or at least has so up to now. Trump won on inflation, but he rode that wave. He surfed that wave. But things have improved, and Americans recognize that in the short term today. But on the flip side, worries about the future have only increased. 60% of Americans today believe that the prices have increased, and that's because of tariffs.
I want to highlight some of these specific numbers. We just had them up on screen. If you're following us on YouTube, when it comes to President Trump's approval or disapproval, rather, when it comes to handling some of these key issues. And it says he's down 12% on U.S. foreign policy. We have been talking a whole lot this week when it comes to Ukraine, the future of the conflict there, how President Trump has been navigating it, convening what really felt like a G7 summit earlier this week, rather impromptu at the White House. How are we seeing foreign policy play into these dynamics as this issue really does dominate the headlines this week.
He doesn't really get any points for it. Americans are really worried about domestic issues, whether it's about inflation or jobs or political extremism, immigration, as some of those key issues. They're worried about those more bread and butter, those more domestic American issues. And more generally speaking, we live today in America that's not in favor of muscular foreign policy. That's across the board. That's whether you're red, blue, purple, you're old or you're young, but especially among the young, they don't like it. And we're seeing that in the numbers. In other words, Americans would prefer not to be exposed to conflicts abroad. They'd rather concentrate on the home front, and there's only tepid support, even in the most extreme situations, tepid support for foreign involvement today.